So your thoughts, feelings, emotions, drives, impulses, they can all give you different messages of what to do. Remember, they're all after the will. They all want to take the will and produce an action. Now, when, for example, you have a drive to anger, and that's pretty natural if somebody else frustrates you. The natural response to frustration is anger. So there's a drive to anger. The anger has now attached to the will. But you have a thought. If I get angry, it's going to make things worse, not better. So now the thought wants to take over the will. So you can have many things at the same time trying to take where the will is going to produce an action. A thought, a feeling, something that's going to be a conclusion. So what do we call this? We call this inner conflicts. We all have inner conflicts, which means different parts of ourselves want to will themselves into being. Now, a second thing that when I look at, you might call these faculties of the will, when I do my daily practice and I look down, I look first of all at certain thoughts and feelings that I know are dangerous. So I have a Sagioli in the back of my mind, but when I first sit, and I want to look down at my ego self, I disidentify from the ego self. Now, it's hard for a beginner, but everybody can do it. The term ego self in Hebrew, by the way, is lev. I've talked about this many times, but if you're not familiar with this, it says in today's Torah portion, Lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. Do not follow your heart and your eyes. Your eyes is how you perceive the world, bright, shiny objects. The heart is the inner perceiving of the world. And in general, the word lev in Hebrew, in the Bible, not in modern Hebrew, in the Bible has a negative connotation unless there's a modifier. So you have lev yodea, the knowing heart. Lev chacham, the wise heart. By itself, the lev is negative. The lev is the untrained ego self. You also find this in the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, where God looks at creation and says, Kol yetzer machshavot libo. Yetzer means a shape. Machshavot means thoughts. Libo means his heart. The shape of the thoughts of his heart. Kol yetzer machshavot libo, rak ra kol hayom. Only bad all day long. This is when God's looking down at the human being. Okay? Kol yetzer machshavot libo rak ra kol hayom. All of the shape of his thoughts, of his heart, are all bad all day long. So lev, therefore, cannot mean how we use the word lev, which means the seat of moral sentiments. The lev must mean what I call the ego self. Now, this perspective of God, for example, I think it's a philosophic anthropology written in much later generations, and you might say put in the mouth of the divine, because the arc of biblical history from Genesis until the end of 2 Kings is a tragic narrative. The tragic narrative is we're in the Garden of Eden, we get ourselves expelled. We have siblings and we try to kill each other. We escape from Egypt to receive Torah at Sinai, and we find ourselves wanting to return to the slavery of idol worship. We receive the Torah, go down to the desert. At almost every opportunity, we do exactly the wrong thing, including today's Torah portion. We go into the land, we build the temple, and if you look at the history of the people of Israel in the book of Samuel and Kings, 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, it's one disaster after another. There's a few righteous people. You have Elisha and you have Elijah and you have a few good kings, but mostly the kings are tyrannical and the prophets are false. They're depraved sycophants in the king's court. So you have all this promise. The human being was created in order, you might say, to live in harmony with the environment. We have a teaching from the divine that we have downloaded. Things are supposed to go well. So at the end of the First Temple period, in my opinion, the prophet Jeremiah and his school of thought, they're the ones that put together the Bible. And for them, the Bible is expressing a tragic view of the human being and a tragic view of history. If you were to ask Jeremiah and his school, as they contemplated the smoldering ruins of the temple, they would say, you know what? Kol yetzer machshavot libo rak kol hayom. All of the shape of the thoughts of his heart are all bad all day long. That's how we got here. It's an overstatement, but that's one of the ways that the Bible teaches is through hyperbole, because hyperbole grabs your attention. So I don't think this statement is rationally defendable. It's trying to tell you something about the human condition, and that is, in the most important things, you can get things terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Sometimes you can rectify it, and sometimes you can't. And every adult in this room you can look back on yourself and say, there are some times when I got it really wrong.